All right, welcome everyone. Happy Easter to everyone here. Thank you so much for joining today. And so we have an Easter celebration right now, and that's really lovely. It's great that we can start with that today and have Joel Goldsmith with us in the meditation, in the tape, and in between. So that's really lovely. So welcome everyone. Happy Easter. So we're talking resurrection. Happy resurrection today. And what is that actually? What is happy? What does that mean? Happy resurrection. What is the resurrection? So this comes back in every talk almost of Joel, and I'd love to spend a moment to not explain what it is, but more like, hey, you remember that there are no opposites. There is no such thing as an opposite. Where, as a human being, you live with opposites and you think that is it and that they really exist, but in fact everything comes together. In the totality of your beingness, everything is whole. So there cannot be two things. There cannot be an opposite. Like an opposite to love would be impossible if that is what God created you as. He created you as the love that you are. And everything coming from love is whole. So there cannot be any difference in that. So basically the resurrection is really the giving up of the whole idea of differences, of comparisons, but also of time related affairs. And that's why we come together. And you know this, it's like to come in touch with another dimension, which is, Joel calls it the fourth dimension. It's like getting you out of this construct that you seem to be in, that is a world of mesmerism, a world of make-believe, but that could never be you, because what it shows you is that there's like limitation and disease and disaster. Now, God did not create that because his creation was perfect. Now that is really something else. That's so beautiful. When we call that resurrection, the tomb is empty, you could say. The tomb of humanhood is empty. There's nothing in there. It was just a dream. So the tomb being empty is also for you to recognize, I can't keep holding on to the limited beliefs that I've believed in, but basically I can let them go because the tomb is empty. I have been risen, because literally Jesus demonstrated that. He demonstrated that by his resurrection. In that he showed you that the limitations that you are encountering, that you make believe real, have no reality whatsoever. That literally you're home in heaven. Whether you appear to be hanging on a cross or not, you are home in heaven. You can bring your brother home into paradise today. And that has happened. He is risen. He's risen indeed. So that is the real message here. And this is spontaneous action to read something from John 20, but I'd like to do that right now. This is the Easter story of you can say the resurrection story in John 20. So I got it here and I'll read it to you. Now on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb early, while it was still dark, and saw that the stone had been taken away from the tomb. So she ran and went to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one whom Jesus loved, and said to them, "They have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we do not know where they have laid him." So Peter went out with the other disciple, and they were going toward the tomb. Both of them were running together, but the other disciple outran Peter and reached the tomb first. And then stooping to look in, he saw the linen cloths lying there, but he did not go in. Then Simon Peter came, following him, and went into the tomb. He saw the linen clothes lying there, and the face cloth, which has been on Jesus' head, not lying with the linen cloths, but folded up in a place by itself. Then the other disciple, who had reached the tomb first, also went in, and he saw and believed, for as yet they did not understand the scripture, that he must rise from the dead. Then the disciples went away and went back to their homes. But Mary stood weeping outside the tomb, and as she wept, she stooped to look into the tomb. And she saw 2 angels in white sitting where the body of Jesus had lain, one at the head and the other at the feet. They said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping?" She said to them, "They have taken away my Lord, and I do not know where they have laid him." Having said this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing, but she did not know that it was Jesus. And Jesus said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you seeking?" Supposing him to be the gardener, she said to him, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away." And Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned and said to him in Aramaic, "Rabboni," which means teacher. Jesus said to her, "Do not cling to me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father, but go to my brothers and say to them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." Mary Magdalene went and announced to the disciples, "I have seen the Lord, and he has said these things to her." So this is part of John 20, and it goes on. But here's the essence. It's like the tomb is empty, and here's the Christ. He's right here. He didn't go anywhere. It did have no effect. The whole procedure that seemed to have taken place didn't have any effect. The tomb is empty. There's no residue in there. There's literally nothing that relates to the past occurrences that have taken place. So this is you in the present moment. You realize that whatever happened before did not really occur at all. It had no effect. Like, it is all gone. Here you are in the present moment. The Christ mind is within you, and it's happening here and now. This is a resurrection day. This is your resurrection day. It is not happening to anyone else. The tomb is empty. There's literally no one to seek for, but the Christ is standing right in front of you, basically standing right next to you. And that is the recognition that that you can have. So this is about this experience for you. It's like you want to feel that. You want to experience that is the case. Now this we're going to meditate or contemplate with something that came up to share. It's from the talk that we're going to listen to today. But it's like, let me feel the love of the Father. Let me feel the love of the Father. Because He created me. I want to know who I am. And this is the day that I will allow myself to be open and receptive and putting all other ideas about past and about opposites and about lack and limitation, put them all aside, because today I'm celebrating my rebirth into the Christ that is born in me today, basically, as a resurrecting mind. How wonderful is that? So we're going to practice that. I'm pulling up the meditation.
I am not seeking anything of anyone in this room. I am here only for one purpose, seeking the realization of God, seeking an understanding of truth, seeking an awareness of God's presence, seeking to know God aright. I am here for only one purpose, that God may use me, that God may flow through me. If possible, heal my neighbor. If possible, forgive my neighbor. Not me, but the God power flowing through me. That the presence of God in me may heal those around me, may uplift them, may reform them, may forgive them, may enrich them. That this Spirit of God which now flows through me may be a light unto my neighbor's feet, a blessing, a benediction to all who are in this room. And may I ever come together, this night, tomorrow night, next week, next month, next year, wherever I meet, for the purpose of spiritual enlightenment. May my consciousness be a blessing. May God in me be a blessing and a healing agency and a redemptive influence to all those with whom I am gathered together, and all those who may be touching my consciousness from near or far, be they friend or foe. Still, if they touch my consciousness, if they think of me, let them find in my consciousness an emptiness of self, an emptiness of judgment, criticism, condemnation, an emptiness of fear or hatred or competition. And let them find in my consciousness the fullness of God. God has said, Son, thou art ever with me, and let me feel now, Father, that thou art with me, and that thy presence is a benediction to all who are here.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining in this moment of contemplation. This part is really contemplation that Joel brings to us, but it's also like a prayer. That's how it feels. Like, yes, I declare. I could say amen after it. It's like, yes, this is what I want. How to be present, basically. How can I be present in every situation? How can I give to my brother in every situation? How can I give to myself and to God in every situation? So basically, what Joel shares here is leave everything else behind. Come to a selflessness, in fact, an empty self, or a self that that is not actively condemning or judging or anything, any of those human activities that you do, competing, comparing, analyzing. All the activity of mind that you use is in the way for you just to experience God. So we leave that behind. We practice the present by just keep reminding ourselves during the day in 1, 2, or 3 minute meditations, every hour or every time that you think about it. Oh yeah, wait a minute. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Let me feel that love of God instead of what I was doing a moment ago. Let me recognize that the tomb is empty, that the resurrection has taken place within me. I want to connect with that part that is forever within myself, because only then I'm really alive. So you can also say, and I didn't connect that yet with death, but say all the human activities of condemnation, of comparing, analyzing, competing, and all these actions of mind to be something that you're not is really what death is. Or if you are continuously referring back to the past and keep bringing those memories back into this moment, it is really that you're not living right now. Now the resurrection is bringing you back to this moment, forgetting everything else. Because in fact the fulfillment is in this moment. It is not coming from anywhere else. So it is not a negation, but it's a realization that brings you right here. This is it. Now Joel expresses today I use some of his expressions from the text or from the tape that we're going to listen to. And this is very much related to transparency. Like, how can you be a transparency, and why should you be a transparency? Literally because everything that you bring in between you and your brother with your ideas, your opinions, in fact, your attitude of competition, of knowing better or being right, and all this stuff is in the way. Just for you, not for your brother, but for you to recognize there's a God. It stands literally in the way for you to experience this moment as perfect. You put it right in front of it, but there's no need for it any longer. So this is what Joel teaches too, and what we're going to use today as an inspiration for being the transparency. So Joel brings it in here with this idea: love will encircle the globe. And I thought that was a beautiful Easter message that Joel's bringing in today, connected to the white lilies and the brightness of the idea. Love will encircle the globe because love is the only thing that is real. So it is accomplished. It is now just up to me to see that there is no opposite to love and to the love of God. And in that is my resurrection, my rebirth, every day. So then, does my consciousness become like the consciousness of Jesus Christ when it is transparent? It becomes a transparency through which God's grace enters and blesses the multitude. See, but that's a prerequisite. It has to be a transparency. It needs to be clean in that sense. Say cleaned of human concerns, of human opinions, human activity of mind. And that's literally in the way for you to experience God's grace. And this is of course familiar to you. God does not enter except through a consciousness that is a transparency for God, and that is willing consciously to let itself be used so that God finds entrance. No desire for glory. There's basically no space for it. Now, in this uplifted moment, my consciousness is a transparency through which God is flowing into this world. Now, this is the general message coming to you in any spiritual teaching that makes any sense. Like, it always comes down to you are basically literally the possibility for God to enter into the experience. Without you, there was no enlightenment. Without you, there was no love in this world. It literally has to come through you. And that's an individual responsibility. So in other words, the requirement is that you become a transparency, like your consciousness needs to be clear so that God can enter through you and come into this world through you, like flowing through you as an instrument or a transparency for, or a channel, whatever you want to call it, like a vessel for the light and love that you are and that God is. And then your will and God's will are one in that moment that happens. And this is There's nothing else for you to do. It's like it's literally your only purpose for being here, to discover this, that's the option, and to exemplify it in your demonstration, in your beingness, into how you can be present. Now that means that our practice is supporting that. The Infinite Way practice is a practice of meditation, of being still at regular times, or at times that you literally give yourself space to do so. You get up in the morning, you do this, you stand still and you open up for the alternative, you could say, for the light and love of God. Now that is activated in you, that channel is opened in you. Now you start your day and you keep up with your practice, because you let yourself be distracted by this world. You have ideas about it. You see, you believe your perception, until you realize, oh no, wait, this is not a fact. It is just a reflection. It's just a thought. I hold a thought about the world, and now it's coming back at me. Now here is my healing on a moment-by-moment basis. If I want to be in transparency for the love of God, this is the requirement. This is the training, you could say. And this is what I do. I turn my mind to God and entertain His ideas instead of my own. For the glory of God, for the love of God. All for the love of God is what we said this week with Brother Lawrence. It's like that comes back in every teaching that makes sense. It's all for the love of God, since you are that. That's why it's all for the love of God. So there is no other thing that you need to do. There's no other purpose that you can have in that sense. It's all inclusive, all for the love of God. And that's happening within you only through your consciousness. Like literally there is only one consciousness, and it's yours. If your consciousness isn't open to receive the love of God, then it is not in this world. There will be no love in this world. All you will see is darkness. All you will feel is the pain of the existence of humanness. So it has only your consciousness. If you open your consciousness, you see that you are connected with your brother, that there's literally only one of us, but only up to that moment that you allow that to happen. That's where it comes down to. That's why it's an individual trajectory. You have to come to realize it is happening in your consciousness. Joel stresses this over and over and over in the tape that we're going to listen to, and I started doing the same. So I'll leave that up to Joel for now. And because God cannot be limited in time or space, because God cannot be limited by walls. The entrance of God into this room is flowing out of this room, all up and down the street, and all up and down the nation, and across the waters, and across the universe. Just give God a tiny crack to enter this world and see, and the tiny crack is happening in your consciousness by you giving up your resistance, or by you giving up entertaining human ideas of duplicity, of duality. So just give God a tiny crack. Well, there's a tiny crack in your consciousness, otherwise you would not be here and listen to this. So keep opening that up. Keep opening up your consciousness for this, to enter this world and see how quickly that love will encircle the globe, faster than sound and faster than light. But there must be an entrance into this world for God, or else God is kept outside, and that is happening in you. Therefore, through my consciousness of love, God can enter this room, this universe, and then the presence of God becomes a blessing and a bounty. So happy Easter. He is risen, he's risen indeed. So this is really like an Easter message in that sense. Through my consciousness of love, God can enter this room, this universe, and then the presence of God becomes a blessing and a bounty. But see, that is individual consciousness that we're talking about, and that is so important. It brings it right back to you, and that's not easy. That is because you literally believe that you are who you think you are, and you have invested in it. That's what you experience the whole day. You're the result of your investment in time and space, in your investment in sickness, your investment in war, limitation, and disease and disaster. And this is what you see reflected the whole day long. You're confronted with it. This is what you made of your relationships, a dependency or an impossibility to deal with it and to make sense out of it. So that's huge. That's huge. So that's why it's like it was your foundation of how you were thinking about yourself. And that's why spiritual teaching, like the Infinite Way, is an immense change in your life. It's really a life occurrence. It is happening and it's changing, but that's going on a day-by-day basis because the change for you is huge. You believe everything that you see. You have believed it all. You have believed that you were here for a moment and that you would die. And all this, like you really associated yourself with a body that could get sick and that could die. Well, that's not what God created, of course not. It's like if life is eternal, that cannot have anything to do with the reality of you. But the belief in it is so deeply rooted in your thought system that it needs to change slowly, 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 with occurrences, with partitions, with revelations, with moments of where you are lifted up and suddenly see there's a different way to see this all. There is something else. I know that for sure now. Now I want to experience that more often. I invite it in more often. So now the practice starts. Now this is what we do. Like this is what brings us here. On a weekly basis at least, we do this. And during the week you might receive an email and you might be reading Joel's books or you might listen to his tapes. Every time you do that, you have no idea what an incredible, progress you make just by doing that. Because you direct your consciousness to truth. That's why that is very effective. And it is not like a magical tape or something that changes things within you. No, you connect. You basically release the resistance to be in communication with your Creator. That's what makes this amazing, and in how it works for you in this path. So that changes much quicker than you think, and that has much more impact than you can possibly imagine. So to just have your daily practice and practice for a couple of times a day for 5 or 10 minutes, taking time to direct your consciousness to God, that's all you need to do. Like the support that is given you from out of time, from all the ones that are with you, that are literally in communication with you, is so enormous. Where do you think that Joel went? He did not go anywhere. So that means if you direct your attention to what he is saying and listen to it and love it and extend yourself in the experience of light and love, feeling that connection, feeling the love for your brother, for your older brother. You could really see Joel as an older brother. He went through a lot of this, like he went through a lot of change. If you want to see something or hear something, like listen to an old tape and listen to a tape in '64. Like the certainty didn't waver or didn't change, but certainly the brightness of the light that he's extending is enormous. In an enormous way, growing in time. So to connect with him, in this way, you can really see him as an old brother, just as Jesus, like Jesus is helping you along the way. That's why we read John 20 and say, like, here's the Christ is standing right in front of you. I'm with you. I did not go anywhere. No, there's no such thing as death. No, it's not that I was laid in a tomb. No, there's nothing to me that can be laid in a tomb, because I am spiritual. I'm spirit. I'm not a body. I'm eternal life, just as you are. Like, I'm the resurrection and the life, just like you. Now I invite you to come with me and celebrate this with me, especially today. Like, this is my resurrection celebration. This is for you to recognize, yes, I'm not alone on this. Even though it seems hard and I seem to go through travails or really difficult periods in my undoing, literally, I'll always come back to the certainty of the light and eternal joy that's with me forever, that I cannot lose and that I can totally trust. Now this is my prayer. This is where I direct my mind to. It has no other purpose. This is what we do here. This is what you can do. So, like I said in the beginning, it only happens through your consciousness. That's important to remember, because it is not depending on anyone else. If you want to be conscious of the possibilities for you to experience the resurrection or experience the love of God, you deal with that yourself, in the sense you are the one who invites it in, who celebrates that, who breathes that, who releases the resistance to receive it, who is not fearful, well, who's not afraid to feel the fear of the big changes that are occurring, whether that's on a worldly level, personal level, any kind of level. The changes that are occurring are huge, but there's no need to let yourself be guided by fear. No, love is here, the possibility. Let love guide your way. It is your lamp. It will direct you on a moment-by-moment basis. And it has nothing to do with your ideas about yourself. So you don't need to protect your ideas about yourself any longer. That really is past. That station has passed. Like, you don't need to protect yourself, your ideas about yourself. No, give them up. Let them go. They were only there because you protected them and valued them and kept perpetuating them in time, but they offered you nothing. What did they offer you? A vision of death, a vision of sickness, getting old, sick and die. That's not Christ's vision, so it has no reality. It is not something that is attractive for you to dive into, even though it can seem like a security, like at least one thing you know, that's going to happen. Well, that has been taken away on this very day. There's no such thing as death. Like, he's risen indeed, and so are you. That did take place. Now you want to have a conscious experience of that, otherwise you miss out on the whole celebration. You want to be part of the party. So, yeah, this is it's a happy Easter. That's all I can say. It's a happy Easter. It's so great. I put it there too. Like, happy Easter. He is risen. And so are you. You are risen. Because there's only one of us. But you have to have a conscious experience of that. Otherwise you think it happened to Jesus and not to you. And there's no such thing as a differentiating. Remember that we don't do that any longer. Like, in the human activities of comparison, analysis, and competition are out of the door. It is not helpful. It's not going to bring you anywhere. So here's just the humility, the humbleness of the practice. He is risen. He's risen indeed, and so am I. So happy Easter. It's happening today. It's happening right here. Just as every other day too. It's happening every day, every moment. I'm reborn and renewed. If I invite it into my consciousness, then I'm this transparency that Joel is talking about. So how lovely is that? And wow, that's so great that that is given us. Imagine what an incredible present you have received. It is amazing that that happens to you in this lifetime. So thanks to God for that, and amen to that too. All right, I'm playing a song, an Easter song. I share this with you.
Be a blessing. May God in me be a blessing and a healing agency and a redemptive influence to all those with whom I am gathered together, and all those who may be touching my consciousness from near or far, be they friend or foe. Still, if they touch my consciousness, if they think of me, let them find in my consciousness an emptiness of self, an emptiness of judgment, criticism, condemnation, an emptiness of fear or hatred or competition, and let them find in my consciousness the fullness of God. God has said, Son, thou art ever with me, and let me feel now, Father, that thou art with me, and that thy presence is a benediction to all who are here. That through my consciousness, thy presence may be felt by all who touch my consciousness. And then you will find that this room is filled with love, with healing grace, with forgiveness, with spiritual uplift, and with the substance of infinite supply. And you never know who will go out of this room and find that for which they are seeking, peace, the peace that passeth understanding, and signs following. Now, as we practice that in this room, in our classwork, and our tape recordings, we have made a start, but it is only a start, because now we have another place, and that is our home. And while ordinarily we may believe that our home is the center of love, actually it isn't, because in it there is far too much of an indulgence in criticism and judgment and condemnation, in lack of understanding and lack of cooperation. And therefore we must now turn our home into a temple of God. And we do that in the same way that we do with our classroom or our lecture room. This is my home, Father. This is thy home. For where I am, thou art. And this must be done every day. Every day we must remember that my home is God's home, because the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. And Father, this is thy home. This is thy abiding place. Fill every corner of it with thy presence. Let love reign here, and let me be an instrument through which thy presence finds entrance into this home. My consciousness can only be an instrument for thy presence as my consciousness is devoid of human emotions, negative emotions, negative feelings, negative actions, only in proportion as I resist the human temptation to be uncooperative, to be critical. Only as I resist the temptation to withhold from any member of this household can I block God's entrance into this home. But as I more and more realize that my function in this household is to be the instrument through which God is to find entrance, I must purge my consciousness of its human qualities. I must quickly forgive and quickly forget. I must forgive injustices, forget offenses. I must realize that God neither judges nor condemns, nor must I. I must acknowledge that God's forgiveness is 70 times 7, and so must mine be. I must acknowledge that love can only find entrance into this home through a consciousness devoted to God and to my neighbor. Therefore, not only will I express love, patience, kindness, cooperation in this home, but I will attempt to love my neighbor as myself. My neighbor down the street, my neighbor in the shops, my neighbor in the school, my neighbor in the office, my neighbor. Then does my consciousness become like the consciousness of Jesus Christ. It becomes a transparency through which God's grace enters and blesses the multitudes. Those who are in classrooms must practice this in their classrooms so that the classroom becomes a temple of God. Those who work in the law courts must practice this in the law courts so that a law court becomes a temple of justice, a temple of equity, a temple of love. Regardless of where we live or work, regardless of where we function on the human plane, let us remember that God does not enter except through a consciousness that is a transparency for God, that is willing consciously to let itself be used, that God find entrance. Practice it, sitting in your chair here, to remember, now my consciousness, which has in it nothing but love, no desire for gain, no desire for glory, now, in this uplifted moment, my consciousness is a transparency through which God is flowing into this world. And because God cannot be limited in time or space, because God cannot be limited by walls, the entrance of God into this room is flowing out of this room all up and down the street, and all up and down the nation, and across the waters. Just give God a tiny crack to enter this world and see how quickly that love will encircle the globe, faster than sound, faster than light. But there must be an entrance into this world for God, or else God is kept outside. And you can tell, you know right well, you've read the paper today, 418 deaths on the highways of the United States on the 4th of July. People ostensibly going out for pleasure and becoming the means of death and destruction. Why? Because God wasn't being admitted into their world. Because Where the presence of the Lord is, there is fulfillment. Where the Spirit of God is, there is liberty. But you see, it hasn't been taught for centuries that the presence of God and the Spirit of God is only where it is consciously admitted through an activity of your consciousness. Unless you consciously declare, I am an instrument and a transparency through which God's grace blesses mankind, friend and foe. My consciousness does not condemn the sinner. My consciousness does not seek vengeance, but lives for forgiveness. And therefore, through my consciousness of love, God can enter this room, this universe. And then the presence of God becomes a blessing and a bounty. Do you not see that if there are a few of us, it is said that if there are 10 righteous men in a city, the city will be saved. Do you not see that if we have a group in the States and a group in England and a group in Holland and a group in Germany and a group in Switzerland and a group in Africa or Australia, New Zealand, daily opening their consciousness, daily declaring, I am not in this world to get something, to acquire something, to achieve something. I am in this world as an instrument of God. I am here to bear witness to God's presence. I am born only for one reason, that God through me may be made manifest on earth. I am born for the glory of God, not for my personal glory, not for my personal reputation, not for my personal wealth. I am born that God may be glorified. Do you not see then that all of your own good will be added unto you without any conscious effort? You will never have to take thought for your life, what you shall eat or what you shall drink or wherewithal you shall be clothed. That will be done for you as you give your life to living it to show forth God's glory. Never, never will you have to be personal for yourself. Never will it be necessary for you to take thought about your future. Your future will be in God's hands while you are about His business of being a transparency through which God becomes evident on earth as it is in heaven. We talk about the second coming of the Christ. Let's have a first coming, here and now. There is only a coming of the Christ when there is a transparency through which it can reach earth. And we cannot be a transparency if our lives are being lived only for our own purposes, just for our own satisfaction, or our own wealth, or our own fame, or our own families. We become a transparency for God when we dedicate ourselves to a love of God and of our neighbor as ourselves. There must be a dedication of our consciousness. And then we need only take 10 minutes at a time, 2 or 3 times a day, for this realization. Where I am, God is. I bring no condemnation into this world, neither do I condemn thee. Thy sins be forgiven thee. And to every storm, peace, be still, in the name of the Father, peace, be still. That through my love of God and of my neighbor, that love may flow through my consciousness and bless mankind and forgive mankind and uplift mankind and free mankind, my enemy and my friend, that my enemy also may be freed of lust and greed and hate and fear and doubt and atheism, that God's grace may touch their consciousness and awaken their soul. Do you not see that this is the only means whereby God can find entrance to the earth as it is in heaven, to where God's reign can take place on earth as it is in heaven? Our consciousness must be the transparency through which God reaches the earth. We have an example of it in every window. Every window is a transparency through which the light can be permitted to enter what would otherwise be darkness. So every consciousness that is dedicated to the love of God and the love of neighbor becomes a window, becomes a transparency through which the light of truth, the light of love, the light of life enters this world and establishes the reign of God on earth as it is in heaven. A minister told me that one night he had been speaking in a church, and after the talk, a woman in a wheelchair, a crippled woman, came up to him and said, "Oh, I would like to do so much for the world, as you have described it. Won't you tell me something that I can do sitting in a wheelchair that would help this great cause?" And this minister said to me, "Do you know what was in my mind at that moment?" And I said, "No." He said, "I was praying, wishing that there'd be a Christian Science practitioner here who could lift this woman up and set her free so that she could do the work she wanted to do." Why was he thinking of a Christian Science practitioner instead of a minister or a priest or a rabbi? Even though he didn't know the reason, beyond the fact that he knew that an understanding practitioner might have healed that woman, what he didn't know, but what he really meant was this: any individual dedicated to God and to man to such an extent that they have given up the personal sense of life becomes a healer. And there is no other way whereby a human being can become a healer except to have a purified consciousness. And so it is that one individual whom he recognized as a Christian Science practitioner, whom we recognize as any practitioner dedicated to God, that only through the consciousness of such an individual can healing come. The going to church regularly and going through all the services and all the rituals and performing them and having all the titles still doesn't admit God as healing consciousness. Only those who have come to a life devoid of a desire for self-will, self-glory, self-riches, self-righteousness, only that state of consciousness becomes the transparency for healing. All other consciousness is just human consciousness, meaning me and mine. I, me and mine. I, me and mine. It's human consciousness, and it is not a healing consciousness. But a healing consciousness is your consciousness or mine in proportion as we give up the personal sense of life and make of our lives a love of God and a love of our neighbor, but remembering that since there is but one God, every man is our neighbor, for every man is our brother. You start to be a healer the very moment you start to consciously be a transparency through which God reaches the earth. The very moment in which you start to practice being a transparency, in that moment you have started the development of your healing consciousness. And when you reach the point that it becomes automatic with you to have in your heart no judgment, no criticism, no condemnation, no thought of self-gain, self-profit, self-righteousness, when you reach that point where even in a measure you are living that kind of an inner life, you'll find that healings take place even without your giving a treatment. Just by those around you coming into contact with you and finding that consciousness of love, forgiveness, giving, sharing, cooperating. Now, we come back to this world problem. Don't be an ostrich. Don't hide your head in the sand and say there are no problems. And that all is light and all is love. Because you may be indulging in an escape complex. Rather, face this world, face the problems that this world is going through, and be willing to ask yourself, since I know that all of these people, regardless of their goodwill, all of these leaders, are finding it impossible to find a solution, yet I know that where God is, there is no problem. Where God is, there is peace. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. In thy presence is fullness of life and joy. Therefore, I now know the solution to this problem. God's presence must be brought to earth. God's presence must be consciously admitted into this world. A window must be opened. Shades must be lifted so that the light can enter. And since our consciousness is the window, If God is not entering through our consciousness, it is because our consciousness is soiled. And it is only soiled with one kind of dirt, and it spells itself S-E-L-F, self. I, me, or mine. When we begin to clean our consciousness, when we begin to realize less and less of self, more and more of love, more and more of forgiveness, more and more of praise, glory, gratitude, more and more of a willingness for God to touch the consciousness of the sinner, the tyrant, the ignorant, the atheist. If I can open a tiny crack in my consciousness, one tiny little speck of a crack for God to get in, God will so multiply itself over the face of this earth that it will be literally proven that where 10 or more are, where 10 righteous men are, the city will be saved. Just let 10 of us open our souls, open our consciousness. But that means dropping the sense of self, self-righteousness, self-condemnation, self-criticism. Let us accept ourselves as living witnesses to the presence of God. Let us learn literally to take no thought for what we shall eat or drink or wherewithal we shall be clothed. Let us learn to awaken in the morning and after realizing God's presence, do that which is given us to do, whatever it may be. And do it to the best of our ability and go on to the next thing. Long before we come to the end of the tasks that have been given us, new tasks will be given to us. And with it, recompense, recognition, reward. Not because we seek them, but because they are the added things. We seek nothing but the opportunity to do the work that is given to us to do. If we must write a letter of condolence, let us write it now. If we must write a letter of comfort to someone, let us write it now. If we must write a letter of thanks to someone, let us write it now. If we must speak a word of thanks or praise or gratitude, let us do it now. If there is a cupboard to be cleaned, let us clean it now. If there are some old clothes to be given away, let us give them away now. Let us do each day the task that is given us to do, regardless of how mundane it may appear to be. And if we fulfill that which is given us to do now, we will find that more important things and eventually more spiritual things will be given us to do. But not until we have done that which is already given us to do. And one of those things, always remember, is filling our own consciousness with love, forgiveness, gratitude, praise, loyalty, devotion. Not only to God and King, to our neighbor as to ourselves. You see, the reason that the Master said, the way is straight and narrow, and few there be that enter, is that people for countless centuries have been taught to expect God to do something. And it can never happen that way. It always is the other way. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. The obligation is always up to ye. Ye must forgive 70 times 7. Ye must forgive the sinner. Ye must pray for the enemy. Ye must know the truth. Ye must do this and ye must do that. And that's why so few enter. It's so much easier to sit back and say, God will do it, or God is doing it, or God ought to do it, but there is none. There is none. It is we who must make ourselves a transparency through which God may enter the scene. And we have to do that within ourselves. Physician, heal thyself. And we who would be physicians to the world, spiritual ministers to the world, we must heal ourselves, cleanse ourselves, minister unto ourselves, until our consciousness is purged of self, and we can be a transparency through which God's grace reaches the earth.
So thank you, Joel, for this beautiful talk. So this individual responsibility, that's where it comes to at the end of the tape. It's like, this is for yourself. If it doesn't, like physician, heal thyself. You are your own physician in that sense. Like you have to learn to get out of the way in order to be transparency, but God is right here. God is on the field. And you are the extension of that. Now, Joel said that's really clear, and I'm happy that we listened to that. So thank you so much for today, for being in this Easter moment together. We read about the resurrection. We recognize this all is happening within my own consciousness. I can experience the totality of my being today if I open my consciousness for that. If I think I need to do something else, then I will not experience the glory of God. So this is the humble practice that we do. It's like getting out of the way, realizing that it's up to us, like it's up to me to do this. It's individual responsibility. And that's where the joy comes in, because you become literally the portal of joy in that, with that recognition and with that discovery for yourself. So the infinite ways in that sense, an individual experiment that you do, you step into it. You don't know what's going to give you, but you know what Joel says over and over and over. So it's like, here's your certainty. You can borrow his certainty to allow yourself to enter yourself on this way and have deep experiences of the reality of the truth of you. And that you can say with basically that you can start to celebrate Easter as it really is and not as what is made of it. So, is there an Easter bunny? Sure there is, of course. And the Easter bunny does what it does, but it has nothing to do with resurrection, right? So it's like this resurrection is taking place within you, and I'm wishing you for today a very happy Easter Sunday. Thank you for everything, and I hope to see you next week in the next episode of The Heart of Mysticism. So I'm playing some Easter music, and I hope you hang out for a moment longer. Just same practice, like to let yourself be affected, to let yourself be taken by the passion of the extension of the love that you are. By the voices, by that what it does with you, that's the most important part. And thank you for everything, and see you soon. Bye for now.